You have been performing your life instead of living it. Every move announced, every goal declared, every struggle shared before it has been survived. And the people watching, the ones liking, commenting, validating, are not the reason you are still stuck. They are the symptom. The reason is simpler and more uncomfortable. You have confused being seen with building something. The people who have actually built something, the ones whose names carry weight long after they stop speaking, share one documented characteristic that the world consistently misses. They went quiet first, not as strategy, not as performance, as the most deliberate act of self-construction available to a human being. The Stoics had a name for what happens in that silence. And they had a precise warning for what it costs you every single day you choose the noise instead. Neuroscientist Dr. Gloria Mark at the University of California, Irvine, spent years tracking how the human brain responds to constant distraction. Her finding is precise and deeply uncomfortable. Every time your attention is pulled away by a notification, an argument, a comment you need to respond to, it takes your brain an average of 23 minutes to return to its previous level of focus. 23 minutes per interruption. Calculate how many times per day something pulls you out, and you will understand why most people end the day exhausted, having produced almost nothing of consequence. But the cost goes deeper than productivity. Psychologist Roy Baumeister's research on what he called ego depletion found that every act of self-presentation, every time you craft an image, manage a perception, explain yourself to someone who did not ask, consumes the same finite cognitive resource as every other act of willpower and decision-making. You are spending your best mental energy on performance, and what gets nothing left is the work. History confirms what the data shows. Julius Caesar, one of the most gifted military minds the ancient world produced, talked constantly, declared constantly, performed his greatness before the ink was dry on the victory. He died surrounded by men who had learned to read his next move from his last announcement. Marcus Aurelius said nothing publicly that he had not already tested in the silence of his private journal. He left no enemies with a map. He left the world with the Meditations. Two men, two approaches to noise. One is still studied 2,000 years later. The other is a warning. Marcus Aurelius governed Rome for 19 years. In that time he faced plague, war on multiple fronts, the betrayal of his most trusted general, and the deaths of 8 of his children. He was surrounded every single day by men who wanted him to react, to declare, to announce, to perform the authority they needed to see confirmed. He gave them nothing. What he gave instead, to himself, in private, in a journal never intended for any other eyes, was the most rigorous self-examination any leader has ever committed to record. Not for posterity, not for the history books, not for the audience, for the work of becoming. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." He was not addressing a crowd. He was issuing a command to himself, to the part of him that wanted to explain and justify, instead of simply continuing. He also wrote this, and this is the line that the transcript of your life most needs right now. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He understood what the neuroscience would eventually confirm. The mind that is constantly turned outward, seeking validation, managing perception, reacting to every pull of the world, is a mind that has surrendered its most powerful function, the ability to direct itself. Seneca named the cost with the precision of a man who had watched it consume the most capable people of his generation. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. Not in dramatic moments of waste. In the accumulated, ordinary, never-noticed minutes spent explaining yourself to a world that did not ask and will not remember. So why does the noise persist? Why do people who can feel the drain of constant performance, who know, at some level, that the announcement is not the achievement, keep reaching for the audience instead of the work? 3 mechanisms, each one feeding the others. The first, declaration, has been confused with construction. When you tell someone your goal, when you post the intention, share the vision, describe the person you are becoming, your brain releases dopamine. Not the dopamine of completion, not the reward of actual progress, a premature signal that registers as accomplishment before a single brick has been laid. Neuroscientist Gabrielle Edingen spent decades studying what she called mental contrasting, the effect of sharing goals publicly on the probability of achieving them. Her finding was counterintuitive and precise. People who announced their goals were statistically less likely to achieve them than people who said nothing and simply began. The announcement provides the feeling of progress without the cost of the work, and a brain that has already been rewarded has significantly less drive to do the thing that would have earned the reward. Silence is not modesty. It is the protection of your own momentum. The second, visibility has been trained as the measure of value. The world you grew up in taught you, repeatedly, systematically, through every platform designed to hold your attention, that being seen is the same as mattering, that the number of people watching is the measure of the worth of what is being done. This is the most expensive lie most capable people are currently living, because it means the work is no longer evaluated by what it produces. It is evaluated by who notices it. And a mind calibrated to visibility cannot invest fully in invisibility, which is where every meaningful thing is actually built. Marcus wrote his philosophy in a private journal that was never intended to be published. The meditations exist today only because someone found them after his death. He was building for the work, not for the audience, not for the record, for the standard he had set for who he was going to be. The man who was never watching left the most read philosophy in human history. I want to ask you something. Think about the last goal you told someone about, the last thing you announced before you had built it. Now ask yourself honestly, how much energy did that announcement generate? And how much of that energy went into the work, versus how much went into managing what you said, thinking about how it landed, waiting to see the response? Now ask the harder question. Where would you be today if you had spent that same energy simply doing the thing instead of describing it? Because here is what silence actually is. It is not the absence of progress. It is the absence of the tax that announcing progress consistently charges you. Every explanation costs focus. Every declaration costs drive. Every performance costs the precise mental resource you need for the next step. Silence is not empty. It is full of the energy you stopped giving away. The third, and the one that requires the most honesty to face. Most people are loud because silence forces them to confront themselves. And what they find there is uncomfortable. The doubt. The gap between who they say they are and who their behavior confirms they are. The version of themselves that has not yet done the thing they have been announcing. Carl Jung identified this with a precision that the Stoics had already intuited. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The noise is not just performance. It is avoidance. Every argument you join that did not need you. Every declaration you make before the work is done. Every scroll, every reaction, every reach for the next stimulus. Is the mind in flight from the one conversation it consistently refuses to have, the one with itself. In silence, that conversation can no longer be avoided. The doubt shows up. The unfinished work shows up. The version of yourself that has been promising and not delivering shows up. And most people, when that version arrives, reach immediately for the phone. The Stoics called this the refusal of self-examination, and they considered it the most dangerous state a human being could inhabit, not because the doubt is fatal, but because the avoidance of it guarantees that nothing beneath the surface ever gets resolved. Here is what you actually do. Tonight, tomorrow, starting now. Practice 1, the silence experiment. For the next 7 days, one thing you would normally announce, do not announce. A goal, a decision, a change you are making. Do it. Tell no one. Track the difference in how it feels to work towards something that belongs entirely to you. This is not secrecy for its own sake. It is the removal of the premature reward, the protection of your own momentum against the dopamine that would have spent it before it was earned. Marcus wrote in private for a reason. The absence of an audience is the presence of integrity. Practice 2, the 23-minute protection. Identify the single most important piece of work you have been unable to make consistent progress on. Tomorrow morning, before the phone, before the notifications, before any external input. Give it 60 uninterrupted minutes. Not 90, not 2 hours. 60. One session. Tomorrow. Protected completely. Because 60 minutes of genuine focus produces more than 6 hours of distracted, interrupted, reaction-driven work. The brain does not need more time. It needs the silence in which to actually use the time it has. Practice 3. The daily self-examination. Tonight, before you sleep, 10 minutes. No phone. No input. Silence. One question only. What did I do today that was consistent with who I am becoming? And what did I do that was performance with no construction underneath it? Write the answer. One sentence each. Marcus did this every night. He called it the accounting of the day. Not for the record. For the honesty. Because a life examined daily does not drift. It builds. Practice 4. Close one open announcement. Identify one thing you have told people you are going to do that you have not yet done. One thing. And make one specific physical action toward it before this day ends. Not the whole thing. The first, irreversible step. The email sent. The document opened. The conversation had. One action that closes the gap between what you said and what you have done, and begins the process of building an identity from behavior rather than declaration. Because your brain does not wire itself around what you say you will do. It wires itself around what you do when no one is watching. That is where identity is built. In the silence. In the invisible. In the gap between the announcement and the work. You came into this video performing. Not consciously. By default. Operating in a world that has trained you. Since before you understood what training was. To measure your value by how many people are watching. To confuse the announcement with the achievement. The declaration with the direction. The noise with the building. And somewhere in the last 10 minutes, if you stayed in it honestly, you felt the specific weight of what that has been costing you. Not in one dramatic loss. In the accumulated, ordinary, never-noticed theft of every hour spent performing what could have been spent constructing. Marcus Aurelius never published a single word in his lifetime. The most studied philosophy in human history was written in silence, for no audience, in a military tent at the edge of an empire that was trying to break him. He did not need to be seen. He needed to be built. And every morning, before the court arrived, before the demands began, before the world showed up with its 100 reasons to react, he returned to the same practice. He examined himself. He held himself to the standard. He wrote the next line of who he was becoming. Not for posterity, for the work. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. The world will not stop offering you an audience. The platforms will not stop rewarding the declaration over the discipline. The noise will not quiet itself to give you room to build. You have to take the room. You have to choose the silence, deliberately, repeatedly, against every pull of a world designed to keep you performing. And do the work that no one sees until it is impossible to ignore. Here is the hardest truth in this entire video. The version of you that the world will eventually not be able to ignore is being built right now, in the silence you keep choosing or keep refusing. The noise will not build it. Only you, quiet, deliberate, consistent, when no one is watching, can do that. Go silent. Go build. Subscribe to the Inner Citadel. This is where the building happens, one video at a time, for the people who have chosen the work over the audience. I'll see you in the next one.